So industry averages show dental practices are only collecting about 91% of their adjusted production. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, what that means. But that means for every $100,000 that you produce, $9,000 is just disappearing. And in a $500,000 producing office, that's $45,000 gone per month. So let's find out where it's going and what you can do about it.
Welcome back to the Truth Decay Podcast, talking dollars and cents with Sara Baker and LaRae McMullen.
Hi, LaRae.
Hi, Sara.
So, LaRae, there is often a gap between what offices think is being handled in their office and what is actually happening in their systems. And that's true on a lot of levels, but specifically today, what we want to talk about is when I ask dentists, how are things going in their practice, specifically financially, I'll say like, how's your insurance aging report? And they'll go, great. And I'll go, cool. What does that mean? But a lot of times when I get an answer that they're doing well means they're paying their bills, right?
Yeah, I was going to say they probably don't know. As long as they can pay their bills and pay their staff and they have a little extra money on their own, they probably think everything is going just fine.
That's right. And, but that wasn't really my question, right? And what I mean by how is it going is you are producing a certain amount per month. And you can't take your total production because total production isn't collectible, right? So certain things affect what is your collectible production, but your adjusted production is an indicator of what you should be collecting. Whatever your adjusted production is, that's what you're owed. That's the value.
100% of what you're owed.
That's 100%. Like you are providing these services to your patients and you should be paid that amount. If you do $100,000 of adjusted production a month, you are owed $100,000 of payments.
Correct.
Right? But that's not what dentists are collecting. That's just not. There is an industry standard that we understand here. And so technically this statistic comes from a study that was done in 2016. So this statistic is quoted often if you Google it. It all kind of leads back to this one particular report that was done by a group called the Levin Group, and it was done in 2016. But honestly, doing what we do every day, I would still kind of consider it to be accurate, if not maybe even a little generous, truthfully. But, let's just go with it. And the statistic is that the standard is that your average dental office is collecting 91%. So 91% of collections to their adjusted production, which means that if your adjusted production is $100,000, you are collecting 91%. You're collecting $91,000.
Right. You're leaving $9,000 on the table?
Yeah. $9,000.
Every month.
Every month. Every single month.
Wow.
I know. And so, point being, right? Single digits. Sure, right? You're
91% sounds great.
Yeah, I mean
it's up there.
You're probably paying your bills, right? You're probably paying your bills. You're probably making your payroll. You're probably paying your lab fees, and you've got some money on the side to do whatever you want to do with. But $9,000 a month, what could you do with that? Additionally,
I could give you a whole list.
Right? So I want to put it in perspective because that's $100,000. We have an example of an office that we worked with that they were doing about $500,000 a month. Pretty large practice, multiple doctors. They were producing about $500,000 adjusted production per month. And some of the services that we were offering for them, we brought their collections up quite a bit. And in a good month, they were doing about 98%. So that was actually a big win, huge win, 98%. But still in some kind of quote unquote bad months, they were doing about the industry standard. They were doing about 91 to 94% in collections, right? So you think to yourself, I know for a fact that there are some offices out there that would kill to collect in the 90s, right? And
oh my gosh, yeah. Some of them that we get in are lucky to do 70s.
Absolutely.
So, some people might think 91 sounds so great.
Absolutely. And it's all relative, right? And so, we definitely take that into consideration. But if you're at $500,000 a month producing, right, adjusted, you should be collecting $500,000 a month. So if you're in a quote unquote bad month and you're doing 91 to 94%, that's 45,000. 9% is 45,000. 6% is 30,000. That means that this office was leaving on the table $30,000 to $45,000 a month.
I mean, that's like an entire year's salary for some people.
For a staff member, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
in 1 month.
Per month. And even in a good month, right? A good month, if you were collecting 98 or 99%, so close to 100, but you might think, well, shoot, I'm so close to 100%. In a $500,000 a month producing office, that's $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Just disappearing. When I ask dentists, LaRae has heard me say this. When I ask dentists, how's your insurance aging? And they say, great. My typical answer is, no, the answer is, it could be better. Always.
It can always be better.
The answer is always, it could be better. So, when we're talking about where is that 9% going, seeing what we see every single day, we've kind of identified 4 major common mistakes that we see in generalized areas. And we will definitely go into these more in depth in future episodes. But for now, we're going to talk about kind of the 4 major processes, systems that we see maybe lacking that kind of contribute to that 9% disappearing in offices.
Sure. So I say number 1 is insurance aging. Claims sitting on the insurance aging report that are not being addressed. Sometimes this is due to neglect, but more often than not, it's due to a busy, overworked front desk that simply does not have time to run and thoroughly work an insurance aging report. A percentage of those claims get processed and paid, but a percentage don't, and they just exponentially go up. And on your total AR, it's impossible to tell which ones are waiting normally and which ones need attention. So we see this a lot. We see, especially in a bigger office, say they are doing 500,000 in adjusted production. That office is busy. They don't have time to be doing nothing. So they've got the phones ringing. They're trying to answer phones. They've got patients in front of them. They're trying to sell treatment plans. They're trying to fill that schedule. It's just constantly interrupting. And an insurance aging report, you could be on the phone all day working one of those reports. You could be on the phone all day. Ideally, you can get things off of the website, right? But that's what we see. We see people take the time that they have to do the most that they can in that short amount of time. But an insurance aging report really needs to thoroughly be worked, ideally every single week.
Absolutely. From top to bottom.
To bottom.
And we tell office managers and front desk people all the time that when we come in to help, that your insurance aging report kind of looking like it does tells me not that you're not doing your job. It actually tells me that you're doing your job really well sometimes, that your schedule is probably so full that you have nothing but patients that you're dealing with. How are you going to have time to run an insurance aging report and stay on hold and work this report from A to Z? Like it's
you're not
impossible.
Because you're on hold with a rep. You're going to put that rep on hold to talk to a patient.
Exactly.
Obviously the patients come first, but is there a point of having a patient in there if you're not actually getting the money through insurance?
Exactly.
You've got to get those claims paid.
And those claims sitting there on the insurance aging report, not getting worked, not getting followed up on, just add to the AR, and they just sit there and they just make it bigger and bigger, right? The second,
And it becomes so much more daunting.
Oh, so overwhelming. Well, and that directly ties into the second common mistake we see, which is not having a process for sending statements for those final balances, because it's kind of tied to the insurance aging, right? Because if your insurance aging report can't be worked, it's getting bigger, you're reluctant to send statements because so many of those patients are going to call and say, what's happening with my claim? And then you're going to be forced to work that insurance aging report, which is what you didn't have time to do in the first place, right?
Right.
So you're super reluctant to send those statements because you know it's going to be a tsunami of patients calling, and you're like, I can't do that right now because I have all of this new stuff, all this production-based stuff that I need to do. But at the same time, mixed in are final balances that are truly due. There are balances that are due, and patients are unaware that those balances are due, and it's just getting older and older and older. And again, the resources aren't there to have somebody go through those over 30-day accounts from top to bottom and like individually send statements, right? So
sure, that's what I was going to say. What about those offices we see that don't want to send statements to accounts with claims pending?
Yeah, I mean,
if you're not sending, one, we think you should.
Yep.
But two, if you're not sending statements to, non-final balance accounts, then you've got a whole insurance aging report that's long and due, and you're not able to work those claims. How long is that going on? If I go to the dentist and I don't see a bill come to me in 2 months, I assume my insurance paid it all and I don't owe anything.
That's right.
So if 6 months goes by and I get a bill, you better bet your butt that I'm going to be calling and going,
That's right.
What is happening? Why do I owe money?
1,000%. And even if you rightfully owe that balance, and even if the office is completely in the right about requesting that money, it doesn't.
I'm already starting off a little annoyed.
It doesn't hurt. Yeah, it doesn't help the situation. Like the patient is
Right.
annoyed, right? If a patient is surprised by a balance, that's not the patient's fault. It's the process's fault. A patient should not be surprised by a balance, right? Now, patients are difficult to deal with at times. Don't get me wrong. And some are willfully, kind of misunderstanding. But if a patient is truly, honestly caught off guard by a balance that is due, and they did not know that there was a possibility that they were going to owe a balance, that is your system's fault. That's not that patient's fault, right?
No, it's not. And that actually leads us right into point number 3. Another reason that statements may not go out is fear that patients will be upset that these balances are due, because they're not made aware that they might owe something. They might have a patient portion. And even if they are made aware, that's not always the way it comes down. And the reason usually for that is because verification isn't fully done.
Yep.
It's a very time consuming but vital part of the treatment process. And again, if an office doesn't have a consistent, confident process in place, then their balances are a surprise. And those surprises lead to, patients being annoyed, calling. They lead to you not wanting to send those statements because honestly do not have time. And nobody likes to talk to an upset patient, but you don't even have time to call to answer a phone and talk to a patient about where their balance is coming from, because more often than not, you need to do an audit in the account to find out where their balance is coming from.
Yep.
So a lot of this boils down to your processes and what you're doing right from the get-go.
Not only a lack of a process that's the problem, but I also think it is number 4, which is a lack of communication, resources, and skills, right? So it's that is really honestly the problem that we identified with our example office, right? The office that we found was just hemorrhaging money. They thought they were doing fine. They were like,
honestly, wasn't their insurance aging pretty good?
It was great. The insurance aging was
that's
great.
Normally where we go first. We
Absolutely.
Look at insurance aging. Theirs looked really good.
And the truth is that again, like if you're producing $500,000 a month and you're collecting $450,000 a month, you think you're doing great. But then you think to yourself, but what could I do with an additional $50,000 a month? And where was it going? Where it was going was just stacking on the AR. And where it was going, it was a lack of communication from the front, because the front was so busy, right? They were so busy. It was such a busy office checking patients in and out that they were not communicating with patients. Number one, what their potential financial responsibility was. They were just telling patients, we'll just bill your insurance. We'll just bill it. Don't worry about it.
We'll send it to you when it's done.
We'll just send it to you. We had a really good process in place for sending the statements, getting them to pay it via their statement. You know, that process was great, but there was almost no communication happening once the patient was standing in front of them, telling them, hey, you have a past due balance. Can we talk about that? Right? Because patients...
Yes, that's such a good point, because we see that all the time, Sarah. We've got a great process for sending out statements and trying to collect these patient balances. Once the patient leaves the office, it's actually kind of hard to get them to pay.
It's incredibly difficult. And the chance of collecting it goes down significantly. And we can only do so much, right? Sending the statements. We could have a pristine statement, you know, process. But when that patient comes in and they're standing in front of you, it really, honestly, that front needs to look at the ledger and go, oh my gosh, LaRae, last time you were in, there was a deductible that we did not collect. Can I get that from you today? Instead of not saying anything and then letting you walk out the door, and then that deductible just keep running for like another 6 months or another year. It just makes it that much harder. And then it contributes to that 9%. Right? That's just not being collected.
So from the get-go, they could have done an insurance verification and collected everything up front that they expected to have to pay, right?
Yep.
And then if something happens in that, or maybe you got too busy and couldn't do that insurance verification, and you let the patient walk out, like that's not the ideal situation, but we all know that happens.
Yep.
So patient walks out. Your billing company or your biller, whoever you have doing your billing, is sending these monthly statements. They've been trying to get a hold of this patient and have them pay their remaining balance. They're not getting any response back. Patient comes in for their next 6-month pro fee or something, and unfortunately, we see this all the time.
Yep.
The office does not look at the past balance, and they don't collect when they have the patient right there in front of them.
Yes. And this is a simple fix. This is what I'm saying. This is what we're saying right now in terms of like, it's a lack of communication resources and skills. This does not have to be a difficult conversation. This can be very straightforward. It can be very factual. Hopefully the structure has been set in place when the patient came in originally, that they understood that they could potentially have a financial obligation. This shouldn't be a surprise to them. Yeah, it's coming quite a bit later than they had anticipated. But this could be a very easy conversation. But it's surprises that kill your AR. It's a lack of a consistent, confident system that kills your AR, right? That's where your 9% is going, like hands down. So,
and 9%, as we said before, I mean, that can be a real big amount of money.
It sure can. So what works? What works? Systems. It's systems. Plain and simple. It's systems. A documented process that everybody follows every single time. I understand that sounds a little simplistic, but I am telling you that hopefully, like, as we do more of these podcasts and we kind of talk about more, I mean, listen, guys, we're hopefully giving you genuinely, I want to give real insight into bits of the process that you may not have thought about that you should give like attention to, right? So
sure, because the doctors and the hygienists and the assistants and everybody, they're focusing on the patient and inside the mouth. But we see it every single day.
Yeah.
We focus, like, you're the experts in the dental, we're the experts in the billing. So this is just a compilation of everything we see on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Yep. And so the strategy that I think needs to happen, right? And I really am, we're talking to your front desk. We're talking to your treatment coordinators. We're talking to your patient coordinators right now. You need to define your entire revenue cycle, right? Like from treatment plan to zero balance. So I know that sounds like a lot, but it's actually not a lot. There's steps. There's very definitive steps that we can help identify what they are. So you need to build systems for patient estimates, insurance follow-up, and statement generation, right? Tied into that is in-office balance communication at every visit in relation to those systems. And I think every office really needs to address the root fear of that avoidance due to confidence gaps and lack of time. Because it's the avoidance that makes you avoid sending those statements and following up on the claims and the overwhelming, oh my God, there's no way that I can run that insurance aging report right now because I couldn't even get to most of it. So there's just, that's going to be for future me. That's future me's problem, right? But future you is right now. It is like literally right now. And you have to.
Future you is also busy. So
future you is
need to do it now.
Future you is going to be greeting that patient and selling that treatment plan too. So nothing's going to change, right? So one thing that we would like to offer is if you go to our website, if you go to our page, which is the truthdecaypodcast.com, and you go to this episode's area, there's going to be a free checklist for you that we're going to create, and it's going to be where's your missing 9%. And it's basically going to be areas that I really want you guys to think about. Like, do I have a process for each one of these areas? And the point of the exercise is to help you evaluate for every single one of these areas. Do you have a system? Is it working and is it consistent?
Right.
Because step one of any improvement is being honest with where you are, right? And if you need help, don't hesitate to reach out. Like, genuinely, we would really love to help you because you are not alone. The reason that the average office is only collecting 91% of what's owed to them, and that remaining 9% is just sitting on the AR and it's slowly dying, is because these issues happen with every single office. And so it doesn't have to be you. And I really want to encourage everybody to just take a beat and think about what they're doing and address it and give it some thought, right? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And step one is taking a look at it and being honest about your processes.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think the top takeaways are, Sara?
So top takeaways, the 9% is hiding in your AR report and it adds up quickly.
It's not always neglect either. It's often overwhelmed and under-supported teams. And shameless plug, we can help out with that.
That's right.
So, your team's getting busy, not being able to focus on certain things. We have the luxury of not having, patients in front of us and the phone ringing off the hook. And we kind of set up our own processes and systems that way so that we can focus, our team can focus on, getting these things in a really good place, getting all of these things worked thoroughly, so that you do have all the information right there in front of you if you need it. And otherwise, we just work silently in the background while your team takes care of the patient. Another takeaway I think for this topic today would be I would like everybody to pull their adjusted production and collection report, maybe from like the last 3 to 6 months. Do the math on that. What's your collection to adjusted production percentage? What is your missing percentage? Again, we're going to have the tool that you can download from our website, but if you just kind of get in there and take a look at your numbers, run some reports, do that math, it's a really good indication of where you're at and where you could possibly be. I mean, how much money are you leaving on the table?
That's right. If you don't have an answer right now for what your collections to adjusted production percentage is right now, you need to go do it. Like, figure it out this second. So those really are your 2 action steps that we would encourage you to do right now would be pull your adjusted production, figure that out. And then number 2, go download our checklist and start thinking about those processes and being honest and saying, do I have a process for this? Am I confident in this? Some offices I have found are really good at certain things, like super confident. We have got this down. Absolutely. And then in other parts,
not so much,
little more shaky, shaky. But listen, you've got to be solid all the way through, because when there is a gap, that's where things are going to fall through. That's the bottleneck, right? So you've got to be solid. And step one, again, is being honest about it.
We definitely don't want you stressing out over paying the bills, so hopefully you are. But whether you are or aren't, this is a really good step to figure out what is your missing percentage?
Absolutely.
How much are you missing on collecting? So,
Yep.
Thanks everybody for listening to the Truth Decay podcast today, talking dollars and cents. We hope this helped uncover a gap that you didn't know was there.
If you guys liked what we had to say, consider subscribing. Find us on Instagram. You can also send us an email, hello@thetruthDecayPodcast.com. You can find us on our website at sddentalsolutions.com. We have an Instagram. We've got a LinkedIn. We've got a Facebook.
We're all over.
We're all over the place, man.
We're all over the place. And if you ever have any questions or want to discuss anything that we could help out in your office, visit our website, because we do have a link on there for, scheduling some time in our schedule to be able to go over some of your questions and hopefully help you out.
Also, wacky thought, if there's something you want to hear about that's billing related, if you had a topic, or if you had a question, something that you encountered, that'd be rad.
Yeah, give us that idea, and we'll see if we can do a podcast out of it.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. So the next time on the Truth Decay podcast, what we're going to be talking about is how to clean up your insurance aging report without losing your mind.
That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, hopefully, that might appeal to some people.
We probably have several employees that would love their little 2 cents into this podcast,
hey man,
right?
Yeah, we'll talk to them. So that's
All
it.
right.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.